than no pack no. This is the Irish NFL Show's NFC North preview as we look ahead to the 2024-2025 season. We move on now to the Minnesota Vikings in association with our partner QuinnBet. The big question in Minnesota, Shane, is over what the Vikings are going to do at quarterback. How soon do you think we're going to see JJ McCarthy? It looks like, for all the world, one of the better landing spots you could possibly want to be for a rookie quarterback, given the head coach, given what's available on offense and the weapons they have, given the huge strides they made last year, that defense made under Brian Flores, which had been the real weakness in Minnesota. This could be a very intriguing team to watch.
I think this team is a team with a lot of training wheels on that's really trying to find out what they can build with going into the future. Anybody who sits here and tells you that they can predict how the Viking season is going to go this year is a bluffer, frankly, because we just have no idea what way they are properly going to develop over the course of the year. And that's okay. I mean, people in Minnesota understand that. We're not quite sure when JJ McCarthy will be or what way he will develop. You know, the Brian Flores defense is it was very blitz heavy. He's very aggressive. There's an identity there. I need another year to bed in to really find ways to translate that into winning situations and being able to attack people at the right time. But they have a year to do that. They have a year to develop. If you look at every game they have in each one, they can win them. So it's I don't know if they're gonna get a run going. I can't see them ever having a period in the season where they have 3-4 wins in a row, or maybe 5 out of 7 or something like that. But there is a lot of potential here. It really is just moving around the pieces to try and figure out, okay, this is what we're good at, this is what we're not good at, so they can attack for next season. The Vikings have sitting here, I mean, the Vikings are in a very good position to possibly make a charge for the division next season, in a similar way to many other teams who are probably still going through somewhat of a semi-rebuild as opposed to a full rebuild. But you know, the key thing is, you know, JJ McCarthy, as much as he's a national champion.
Love the confidence, Shane. Not content with putting it on the line for 2024. You're now predicting 2025. Like, God bless you.
Yeah, well, I said they're in a good position. I didn't say they were going to do it. As much as I said it, yeah, it's amazing. I've called myself out to be
I'm watching the clock here. 27 minutes. We're going to clip this one. We'll be pulling this one out of the archives in 2 years' time now when they're picking first.
Yeah, in fairness, it's amazing. It's a classic of me as a Boston sports fan to say two things at the same time. To go from anybody who predicts this season as a bluffer to I think they have a good chance in 2025. But that's that's kind of where I sit. But look, I still stand by it because I can't sit here and say for certain that the Vikings are a 7-10 team or a 10-7 team or a 4-win team or somebody who can go bigger or smaller than that, because they don't even know. We don't know what they can actually do with many of the pieces they have, particularly a quarterback in JJ McCarthy, because he's such a young player in particular. You have to remember he's only 21 years old. I know he's a national champion. He came from Michigan. People are always knocking down the fact that there was a system that kind of won that national championship over his own talents himself. But by God, is he in a great situation with Kevin McConnell to build himself up for the future. For this season, Jesus, God knows. Every weekend, I think will be a roller coaster with the Vikings. You know, it wouldn't shock me if they end up, you know, winning by 24-0 one week and losing by, you know, double digit, you know, 4 touchdowns the week after. There's going to be that kind of bit of a roller coaster thing about them this year, I think.
No, it's a really good offense, though, for a quarterback to come into. And I don't know whether Sam Darnold starts the season or not, or whether it's going to take a while before we see JJ McCarthy eased in. But there's enough pieces there to keep the show on the road as you figure things out. I would have thought, especially when, as Shane mentioned, you got a guy as smart as Kevin O'Connell running the show.
Absolutely. Look, we kind of talked about this young rookie quarterback coming in. Now, personally, I don't think he's going to start the season, but I think you probably end up seeing him by week 5 or 6, which is generally the way it goes. If Sam Darnold doesn't kind of hit the ground running, we all know like the favorite player in every team is the backup quarterback. But I think when you look at this Vikings offense, obviously they brought in Aaron Jones. I mean, when he's on form, he can be a really, really devastating player. And, you know, he'll want to keep going against the North the way he did for the Packers. So that's an interesting player who can come in and, you know, really bulk up that run game, which will take the pressure off whichever quarterback is back there. But then, you know, you look at Jordan Addison at wide receiver, excellent player there. And then the number 1 wide receiver, obviously Justin Jefferson is arguably one of the better players in the NFL as a whole. He's obviously got his new contract. He's the highest paid non-quarterback in the league and worth every penny of it. So he is somebody who will help out that quarterback. And then even at tight end, you've got, Hawkinson is there, and they've even brought in Robert Tonyan, who I know didn't have a great time in Chicago, but he is a player when on form. He can make a difference. So offensive wise, I think this Vikings team is really, really set up for a rookie quarterback. It'll be interesting to see how McCarthy actually does settle in when he does play, because as Shane says, he is a very young player, and he's a player who probably has a bit of work to do in terms of mechanics and stuff going into the NFL. I think it's a criticism brought up that, he didn't throw as much in Michigan. They ran the ball a lot and he was the system quarterback. But I think it's a fair point to bring up, because it is a fact he didn't throw as much, and he's going to go into the NFL now. So they're not going to want to put too much pressure on him too soon as he develops. But yeah, offensively, I think it's a good team. I agree with Shane, though. I think it could be up and down certain weeks, and it could be interesting to see where they actually end up. But again, another team who, if they do play well, can beat anyone on the day and will make this NFC North interesting with the other three teams there.
Brian, I look at this roster and I look at, Noel touched on it briefly there. They picked up Aaron Jones. I think they actually did the better out of that deal. I'm not sure that Josh Jacobs is ever going to be the player that he was. I'm not sure that's a great move for Green Bay, letting Aaron Jones go, regardless of the injury history. And I know that's a factor. Daniil Hunter's gone, but they bring in Jonathan Grenard from the Texans, who's
great sign.
A younger guy with a huge amount of potential. And we've talked about the impact that Brian Flores has made. I know we're contractually bound at this stage to mention Josh Dobbs, our mate, on every single show, but I still, when I look at what O'Connell is likely to do in terms of helping a quarterback, I can't get out of my mind that first game when Dobbs has to play, barely even knowing the names of his teammates, and O'Connell talks him through it. Like, he's some coach. You talk about quarterback whispers. We've never actually had to see it in real time before. And to coach a guy to win in that game, to even get him to play competently when he didn't even know the cadence, didn't even know the names of his linemen, had literally arrived in the door, that's some achievement. It's a great achievement by Dobbs, of course, but it's also a brilliant example of what O'Connell can do as a coach.
Yeah, and it's probably complimentary to him that Dobbs has now gone to the 49ers as the backup to Brock Purdy, and he's going to get a fresh opportunity there. But even if you take a step back to the previous year, and I know a lot of people would, there's a kind of a two-sided kind of argument around the Vikings and how they won so many games, and by tight margins. But they played to the death, and they played for the coach, and that was recognisable immediately as a coach that's gone in his first year. We had him on a couple of years back, fantastic guy to deal with and speak with, and the granular detail in which he went into at that stage, and he was only a month or two into the job, on every particular player within the offense in that particular interview, was mind-blowing. And I think they've also complemented it very well in terms of bringing in Brian Flores last year, the year in which they actually go to the playoffs, lose the wildcard game. A lot of that was down to the defensive side of things. I think the problem with the Vikings is, and we're probably going to come to it with the Bears, the aspirations and the fans and the expectations are lofty, because you've got such a strong offensive unit. You touched on it. You've got such a great offensive-minded head coach, and you're trying to put all that together. Jordan Addison's numbers last year were off the charts for a rookie wide receiver. Bearing in mind he had three quarterbacks over the course of the season. You've got arguably, as Noel's touched on, the best wide receiver in the league. Aaron Jones is a lovely pickup. TJ Hawkinson. I know we're repeating names, but they've got so many attributes on offense, and now you're asking a young quarterback to come in who, Noel is rightly called out, didn't throw the ball a lot in college, but there's going to be an expectation that he's going to have to come out of his shell in terms of proving that part of his game, because you don't have all those players who have expectations to get the ball unless your quarterback is thrown, and that's the difficult thing. Sam Darnold, I believe, will start the season. I think they'll recognise we need to go with the kind of trusted veteran here to try to get the team. The last thing they need is a developing quarterback in a team that's stellar and looking to make a playoff push, and they can't get it done because the quarterback is still in that early phase of his career. That's a concern for me. I think the Vikings fans might get a little bit frustrated if the JJ is in. They're losing games. There is positive outcomes in terms of what they're seeing from the quarterback, but you can't get too far behind in this division very early in the season.
All right, that is our look ahead at the Vikings for 2024. You're with the Irish NFL Show's NFC North preview, and we're coming